Oh boy. Oh boy indeed. You knew the day would come where I would fulfill your request, meet your demands, honor your wishes, and update the most awesome, legendary weapon in WoW, the Warglaives of Azzinoth. Well, let's get going then. The Warglaives of Azzinoth have this little shield bit in the middle, so as I began modeling Illidan's mighty weapon, that's exactly where I started, putting together its basic shape, first focusing on establishing the rough contours before adding too many vertices that would make my geometry hard to manage. At the center of this disc sits a little, nub thingy. To make room for it, I deleted the inner part of the shield, creating the outline for this little nub thingy, and simply worked out from the middle to connect it to the rim that I just prepared. Then finally, this thing ain't flat. So I pulled the center of it forwards, giving it the roundness it deserves. The little nub thing is not a nub if it's just a hole. So I turned the hole into a nub to fix this glaring issue, leaving us with a fun little shield. Illidan's Warglaives would be pretty damn useless if they didn't have these blades, which is the primary reason they do. The Warglaives have these spiky outcroppings in its contour, which I would bit by bit model my way around. Now, you could argue that there is a more methodical way of doing this, so if you're learning, don't copy all of my habits on face value. I'm making a video, and I just like the visual of this little line dancing its way forward. I've modeled the top half of the blade. I would wrap around and go back and add the bottom part of it, leaving a bit of space in the middle to fill in with a flat surface for me to later paint fake 3D details onto, because I like to make my models to be actually game ready, which I don't know how many times I need to say that before people stop accusing me of somehow cheating by using a million polygons. I show my wireframe, guys, please. I added little notches to the top here because the original are chipped there in an oddly symmetrical fashion. Then I prepared the beginning bit of the blade to continue on into a neat little handle, which, basically stick. Oh, and I plopped the shield into place, which I then went on to give some depth. The Warglaives have these 3 horns on either corner. I've seen various interpretations of these, but looking at the model myself, I think they kind of look like they're of a bone-like material. And I figured it would be kind of cool to make them these protruding claw-like horns that all point towards the middle. After all, Azzinoth was a demon. That's the beauty of doing art, you know. There's no right and wrong. Only good and shit, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed that I land on the right side of that spectrum. The weapon has, I think, some components broken off. In the original these are all symmetrical, but we don't play that way. I made them asymmetrical, with different parts being broken on either side of the model. Doesn't that make the texture layout more complicated? Yes, but I solved that. The bits that are symmetrical on each side simply share the same texture space. However, the bits that are asymmetrical are unwrapped separately and have their own space. Similarly, I modeled some cracks in the shield, also asymmetrically, so that whole bit is also not going to be mirrored in the texture. This wouldn't double the painting I would need to do though, because I can go back and forth between mirrored and unmirrored painting, even if the UVs don't overlap. Wait, but doesn't all this require 200 IQ? Yeah. And with that, I'd finished the 3D mesh of my Warglaives, taking it from this to this. Yeah, it's not meant to be that interesting yet, just wait for the textures. Oh, speaking of which, I started texturing the Warglaives, beginning by plopping in the basic highlights and shadows of the blade. One thing I gotta figure out with my painting process is how to make this shit look less ugly at the beginning of it. Normally, that doesn't matter. Everyone has a different process, and it's the end result that's important. But I always feel a little sense of shame as I'm editing up the texture paint footage. It's like an ugly baby, you know? Yeah, what matters is how it's gonna look in 20 years, but you're still gonna put your jacket over your stroller when you spot a colleague, you know? You still send your kid with a mask to the park, it's what you do. As I laid some basics down, I painted the golden details onto my still very ugly Warglaive. To make the grey bit beneath pop more, I was gonna add a highlight to the top of it, right underneath the golden trim. Normally I would imagine the golden bits to simply go over the dark stuff beneath, but this is how the original has it, and I'm not going to question the work of the Lord. The blades needed love too, of course. I wanted them to look sharp, but also kinda rough. Legion stuff is a lot of metal that looks kinda like, almost like chipped volcanic glass or demon horn or something like that. I wanted to have the edges of the blade follow a similar pattern. In the middle of the blade runs some kind of snaky noodle of some sort. I have no idea what it really is, but I want to make sure that I do not skip any of the details present in the original. The nub in the middle still looked completely flat, so I fixed it and added some shadows onto the bottom of it. The golden trimming also needed to pop more, so I added some darks underneath to add that depth to it, which I did a similar thing to the bit where the golden trim comes on top, and added some detail to it all, trying to make the placement of the highlights give a sense of wear and tear. I didn't want to make it all too perfect and neat, because Illidan has had these blades for 10,000 years, and running Black Temple, he seems a lot less focused on maintaining the state of his belongings than he is on Blood Elf concubines. I painted some details onto the horns, making them lighter towards the pointy bits, and went around to add some sharper lights at the corners of the metallic elements, as well as some softer lights. Really trying to start building up that metal look, both in the sense of material and in the sense of the music that people like to flap their hair around to. Oh, remember what I said about the UV layout of the asymmetrical bits? Yeah, bit me in the ass like you wouldn't believe. I painted the green glow on, not on a separate layer, and the UV seams were about as clear as they can get. The back of the shield bit looked like modern art, so I flipped the Warglaive of Azzinoth around and painted in something that looked a bit less like it'd be valued at 74 million US dollars while having nothing at all to do with tax evasion. I also gave the handle itself a coat of paint. This was at the end of a long day, so somehow it went over my head that it makes little sense for the wrapping to be different widths like that, but I'll fix it later. Then I moved on to the fun part and started to flesh out the blade of the weapon. It was quite fun to paint this, coming together with the light from the edges of the blade. I don't know why the middle bits aren't equally lit up, seeing as the glowing effect around the weapon very much does cover both the inside and outside of the blade, but I'm not gonna question the work of the Lord. And as I kept on painting, the piece would slowly begin to come together. And rather than tell you what you're watching with your own eyes, I can make better use of this time and say, God damn, I did not expect this many views on my review of the Tier 2 remakes. Holy shit. I did it mostly as an experiment. I thought it'd be fun to do a video that's a bit more, off the cuff and feels a bit more personal. Like I'm just riffing with you guys rather than such a scripted form. Not only that, but I also would love to find some easier, quicker formats for videos that I can use to fill up my channel a bit more. So I figured, hey, why not do a review of all the Tier 2 remakes, seeing as people liked my Judgment update so much. I expected maybe a couple of thousand views, and instead it ended up being my most successful video since the actual Judgment remake, which is wild. So yeah, I'm definitely down to do more like it. I was thinking stuff like reviewing the art of a new patch when it comes out, or when it's about to come out. Maybe doing tier lists of classic WoW weapons. Stuff like Paladin set tier list or whatever, where I rank all the ones of the first 3 expansions or something. I don't know. I'll try out some different stuff and see what works. If you have any ideas, absolutely do let me know. It's obviously not gonna do as well as this video did, but I would love to get better at doing these kinds of videos and make it more of a thing. They're not gonna go at the cost of art videos. At least, yeah, not really, because again, they take so little time to do compared to my main content. These are the easiest views I've ever had, like by far. Anyway, I'm not gonna show you the whole rest of me finalizing the textures, because I think that kind of ruins the fun of the review. And I'm all about fun. And I have ran clean out of words for this script. Special thank you to my awesome supporters. Shout out to the newcomers, Johannes S. Arnerson and Kerem Sayid Karadovud. And as always, shout out to the Ultra Mega Chats, Dinkeldork, Flora, and Wallace Vienna. Thanks for being awesome. If you like what I do here and you would like to support me in doing more of it, you can sign up on Patreon and become a patron, or sign up as a member and become a member. You can do all that stuff. Or if you don't want to do that stuff and you still want to support me, you can just like, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell everyone else to watch it. Okay, thank you. Bye.